Year 1931. Amid the icy, frigid waters of the Arctic Ocean, a submarine sped toward the North Pole when it struck an inverted iceberg. The sound of the collision was so deafening that it seemed the submarine might shatter into pieces. Everyone on board believed their end was near, except for one man, Hubert Wilkins, the mission leader. Wilkins dreamed of reaching the North Pole, not via air or land, but by navigating beneath the Arctic Ocean's thick ice layers. His plan was to emerge precisely at the North Pole by drilling through the ice. In 1930, no one in history had dared to attempt such a feat. As you might anticipate, they underestimated the sheer danger and life-threatening challenges of this journey. Traversing the shadowy depths of the underwater world, they encountered a host of bizarre and perilous problems. From critical submarine components malfunctioning under the ice to the engine completely ceasing operation, the journey quickly became a nightmare. The tension reached a boiling point when crew members began turning on each other, threatening the safety of everyone on board in an attempt to sabotage Wilkins's dream. Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of The Story of Dreams. The North Pole, a century-long quest. For hundreds of years, explorers relentlessly tried to conquer the North Pole. Initially, ships were their primary means of travel, but the Arctic Ocean's extreme cold and dense ice sheets often trapped their vessels. These brutal conditions made reaching the North Pole an exceedingly dangerous endeavor that claimed many lives. Unlike the South Pole, which sits on a continent, the North Pole lies in the heart of the Arctic Ocean, perpetually cloaked in ice. This distinctiveness made access even more challenging. Wilkins resolved to take a groundbreaking approach, traveling under the ice of the Arctic Ocean, a perilous yet promising route. His ambition took root in 1930 when he envisioned crossing over 3,000 kilometers of the Atlantic, traveling beneath the ice and reaching the North Pole within 6 weeks. However, such an ambitious plan demanded substantial funding. Wilkins initially tried to raise funds by delivering lectures and selling his books, but it soon became clear that these efforts would not suffice. Seeking a larger platform, he turned to the media for assistance. Enter William Randolph Hearst, a powerful media magnate who agreed to finance Wilkins's expedition. In exchange, Hearst insisted on exclusive coverage and sensationalized headlines that would captivate the public's imagination. Mission launch and early hurdles. To embark on this daring expedition, Wilkins chose the Nautilus, a World War I-era submarine. However, significant modifications were necessary to make it fit for navigating beneath the Arctic ice. Simon Lake, a naval architect and engineer, undertook these upgrades. He reinforced the front of the submarine with durable steel plates, covered it with concrete to withstand ice collisions, and installed a powerful hydraulic cylinder to absorb the impacts. Additionally, sleigh runners were added to enable the submarine to glide smoothly under the ice sheets. On March 16, 1931, with 19 crew members aboard, Wilkins set off for the North Pole aboard the Nautilus. Yet even before the mission officially began, technical issues plagued them. A few days into the voyage, the submarine experienced multiple failures, including engine breakdowns and a drill that failed essential tests. The drill was critical for the mission's success, as it would allow the submarine to breach the ice and reach the surface. Without it, the mission was doomed. After weeks of repairs and facing a strict timeline, Wilkins made the decision to relaunch the mission. Crossing the Atlantic Ocean proved to be an arduous challenge. The Nautilus encountered relentless North Atlantic storms, and the living conditions on board were equally punishing. The submarine's cramped quarters left no room to sit, forcing the crew to endure long hours on their feet. Throughout the journey, Wilkins sent updates to Hearst via radio, sharing the mission's progress, technical difficulties, and even the deteriorating health of some crew members. Weeks of relentless travel and constant exposure to harsh conditions took their toll. Before even entering the Arctic Ocean, one of the submarine's engines failed. A critical situation. The circumstances aboard the Nautilus became dire. If the remaining engine failed, the submarine would be rendered powerless, turning into a watery grave for all 20 crew members. Tragically, this fear became a reality. On June 13, 1931, radio communication from the Nautilus abruptly ceased. For days, no one knew what had become of the submarine or its crew. Finally, on June 15, the USS Wyoming, an American warship, discovered the Nautilus adrift approximately 1,000 kilometers northeast of the Azores. Both engines were inoperative, the batteries had been drained, and the submarine could no longer move under its own power. It was a humiliating setback for Wilkins, who had to rely on towing to bring the Nautilus back across the Atlantic. Following this debacle, 4 crew members chose to abandon the mission entirely. The submarine required extensive repairs once again, which delayed the expedition by weeks. These delays meant Wilkins could no longer meet Hearst's deadline, forfeiting the $500,000 prize money, a fortune equivalent to millions today. During this leg of the journey, the crew managed to gather significant scientific data. Among their discoveries was the presence of a warm ocean layer beneath the freezing Arctic waters. This phenomenon, they determined, played a vital role in influencing atmospheric conditions in the region. By this time, the Nautilus had traveled nearly 1,000 kilometers beneath the Arctic ice, reaching as far as 82 degrees north latitude. This was the furthest any submarine had ever ventured under the ice, and it appeared Wilkins was on the cusp of achieving his dream. However, life inside the submarine was grueling. The crew faced unbearable cold, exhaustion, and illness. With no heating or insulation, the thin metal hull was the only barrier separating the freezing waters from the crew. This proved woefully inadequate. Most crew members were falling sick, and morale hit rock bottom. Some begged Wilkins to abandon the mission, fearing that continuing would mean certain death for everyone on board. On August 22, 1931, disaster struck once again. Deep beneath the ice, the Nautilus came to a complete stop about 1,100 kilometers into the Arctic. Its vertical diving rudder, which controlled the submarine's depth, had malfunctioned. Wilkins suspected foul play, as tensions among the crew had reached a boiling point. Many were adamant about aborting the mission and had clashed with Wilkins over continuing. Regardless of the cause, without the rudder, the submarine was effectively immobilized. Wilkins contacted Hearst to report the dire situation. Publicly, Hearst advised Wilkins to abandon the mission. Privately, however, he continued to pressure him to proceed, reminding him of the substantial funding provided and hinting at potential financial repercussions if the mission was terminated. Trapped beneath the ice and with the crew's lives at stake, Wilkins faced an excruciating choice. Should he push forward, risking everyone's safety, or heed his crew's pleas and call off the mission? In a final effort, Wilkins instructed the crew to drill through the ice above them. This would allow fresh air to circulate, and also test the functionality of the submarine's critical drilling equipment. However, after hours of effort, the drills failed to penetrate the thick ice sheets. Realizing the hopelessness of the situation, Wilkins made the agonizing decision to abandon the mission. On September 6, 1931, he sent out a final radio message. "Our Arctic exploration has ended." He ordered the Nautilus to retreat from the Arctic, bringing the historic expedition to an end. Returning to the United States, Wilkins faced intense criticism and financial ruin. Yet, his efforts were not in vain. The Nautilus earned its place in history as the first submarine to travel so far beneath the Arctic ice. Years later, Wilkins's contributions were finally acknowledged. In 1958, a nuclear submarine named the Nautilus successfully reached the North Pole from beneath the ice, achieving the dream Wilkins had spent his life pursuing. This historic feat occurred just 3 months before Wilkins passed away on November 30, 1958. The story of Sir Hubert Wilkins is a remarkable testament to determination and vision. Despite falling short of his goal, his relentless pursuit of the North Pole broke new ground and inspired future generations. If today's video offered you something new and inspiring, be sure to like and share it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Should I continue exploring stories like this? Your feedback is invaluable. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for future updates.